in HRD and Personal Management from Loyola Institute of Business Administration in Management, and later on completed his PhD from IIC University of Technology in Management. So I have a great pleasure to welcome on to stage the moderator for the program. Please put a big round of applause to the moderator, Dr. Venkatara.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On a lighter note, I should say participants who are still waiting outside, outstanding participants, please get in. Yeah. Wishing you all a very, very happy and prosperous New Year 2023. And I take this opportunity to thank KMA leadership team, Ms. Nirmala and Mr. Balakrishnan, fondly called as Mr. ABK, for giving me another opportunity to be part of this wonderful conclave. My compliments and congratulatory message certainly for KMA team for doing a commendable work, constantly bringing in community to cope with the change. We all know what kind of industry we are in. So much of uncertainties, either due to pandemic or geopolitical situations. In all of these uncertain situations, it's very important to be aware of what's happening in the market and how do we shift ourselves not only from our community perspective, but as an organization. Undoubtedly, the theme today, the next generation of communication, especially in the context of manufacturing, stands a testimony for what KMA is attempting to do year on year to prepare our society, to prepare our community. When we talk about the manufacturing sector, India's GDP, we're all familiar with, and the contribution coming from manufacturing sector is about 17 to 18%. Almost it got stagnated over a couple of decades at 17 to 18%. But what has accelerated in terms of contribution to India's GDP is services sector. So friends, services sector has got probably the highest, more than 70% contribution to India's GDP. So we need to keep that in mind. To a great extent, manufacturing sector is also started thinking through products that they manufacture to transform into services. We all have lived with multiple revolutions. Industrial revolution, currently we are in fourth industrial revolution, popularly in the social media talked about as Industry 4.0. And we are on the cusp of Industry 4.0. People have started talking about Industry 5.0. Just a quick historical check on the journey that we have gone through as a community from the manufacturing perspective. First industrial revolution, way back in 1780s, was focusing on mechanization, where we used water and steam in terms of our entire supply chain processes. And then subsequently, around 1870s timeframe, second industrial revolution focused on electrification. And around 1970s, third industrial revolution focused on automation. That's where electronics, the computers, all of those started eventually intervening to the entire processing industry. And then subsequently, between 3.0, industrial third revolution and fourth revolution, we had something uniquely for globalization around 1980s timeframe, which is referred to as Industry 3.5. And that focused on globalization. How do we take offshoring, inviting, opening up the market to go cutting across boundaries? And today, we are at fourth industrial revolution called as Industry 4.0, focusing on digitalization and clearly a digital transformation. And where is the future heading to? Future is heading to Industry 5.0, which is referred to as personalization. This is where the combination of machine and human going to work together. So in a way, Industry 4.0 referred to robotic process automation, while Industry 5.0 is going to talk about cobots. Collaborative bot technology, machine and human will work side by side. And robots will learn from human being, spacing human from mundane activities, focusing on bringing in innovation. So friends, the interesting part of this dimension that we are living through, according to numerous reports, if you go into social media, look at Gartner's report, FICCI, the report coming from, or Forbes, or even World Economic Forum. If you give a top 10 manufacturing trends, you would often hear these terminologies most searched in the websites as well for the manufacturing sector, because the sector is navigating the most exciting times with the interventions of numerous technology. I think the earlier speakers placed it extremely well by bringing in IIoT, Industrial Internet of Things, additive manufacturing and 3D printing. They all talked about robotic process automation, AR, VR, metaverse, digital twin technology. The manufacturing sector is going through a huge transformation. And all of these are the technology. All that, we are not going to repeat all the technology, but just to make a point that one common key enabler to all of this is going to be connectivity. And that's the apt of this theme, the next generation communication, which is currently we're referring to 5G, which is absolutely essential. According to World Economic Forum, there are 5 functional drivers of 5G which is going to be leveraged for technological applications. Number 1, enhanced mobile broadband. That's something which is inevitable. Second one, ultra reliable low latency communication, which is absolutely needed in the shop floor. Third one, massive machine type communication, so that we will be able to develop and manufacture speaking product. That's a unique term Rolls-Royce made, a speaking product. Product should speak to the developers. Product should communicate with the manufacturers, and it should say that I am not doing well. Some parts of the product are not doing well even before it shuts down. And that communication is important. That's where we are talking about speaking products with which we will be able to solve a complex business problem for the customers. The fourth dimension is security. Absolutely. With connectivity, data is going to be all over. How data can be used for taking right set of decisions. And fifth one is power efficiency. These are the 5 functional drivers that's going to be implicated from 5G interventions. In fact, the global economic value, friends, on 5G, by 2035, it is likely to hit close to about $13.2 trillion, according to World Economic Forum, through the survey from IHS Markit. And in this $13.2 trillion, the contribution of manufacturing sector alone is going to be globally $4.7 trillion, much, much higher compared to any other sectors. So imagine the opportunity for the future that we are living with. Another famous research association, which is gaining prominence in the current market, is European Future of Factory Research Association. They have coined these terms: smart factories, dark factories. We use the term dark factories not with any negative connotation, but you will suddenly find there are only machines in the factory, less of human being. So dark factories, or they use the term intelligent plant. They're trying to bring in connectivity from all perspectives. Even the machines, tools on the shop floor should be able to communicate with the stores department to say, where am I? And the work is over, I'm not being utilized, you can collect me back. That's the kind of communication what is needed. All of this, according to European Future of Factory Research Association, according to them, what they are trying to say is, the world is moving towards a new transformative business model called servitization. And this is an important term which is eventually coming up. Servitization typically means outcomes as a service, not necessarily the product, which means if I manufacture a product, maintenance of the product, accountability of product running efficiently lies with the manufacturer. What product does to the customer in terms of making their business successful is the focus. That's the outcome. Classic example here as a use case is Rolls-Royce. There are many companies are getting into Rolls-Royce, the early mover, Alstom, maintaining the trains in the UK, Xerox, we are all familiar with, and Caterpillar. And when we talk about Rolls-Royce as an example, there was a classic angle to this, where Rolls-Royce took a decision to sell their aircraft engine to the aviation sector. That's their Boeing, EasyJet, they are all their customers. At some point in time, they realized that what they want to do is the aircraft engine is sold. After that, what happens? So the company predominantly enjoyed, after selling the product, we sold it. Now, if you think this way, there are several competition who would come in for us. But certain boardrooms started thinking from the director's perspective of Rolls-Royce that what are the challenges my customers are facing with the product I have sold? Think about it. And that's the powerful way of thinking, bottleneck analysis of my product at the customers. And they went on to collect voice of customers. And what they recognize is so much of pain points and challenges to maintain that engine. Suddenly engine goes kaput, the aircraft has to be grounded, and they will not be able to operate in multiple sectors. They understood the pain point. What did they do? This is a classic transformation. They realized that it is time for us to get to know the product, which is aircraft engine, lot more better. So every parts of the engine had zillions of sensors. And these sensors would let the war room, they call it as manufacturer's war room, the research room, they would let them know that any part which is likely to go down or not functioning to the fullest capability, it will inform the manufacturers that there is something wrong in this particular product component of the aircraft engine, with which the engineer, the maintenance engineer, can then identify where this engine is, which location, which geography, and go quickly fix it, even before that parts of the engine component is going to shut down. And this is where the CEO of Rolls-Royce said, we are now making a speaking product. Product will talk to us. And you know what interesting call he took? The moment he put this across with all this Internet of Things, connectivity, AR, VR, where the engineers used to, maintenance engineers used to carry heavy standard operating instructions on hand to go and fix the issue. And they have to go back and say similar such issues, what were the workarounds, look at the database. They created wearable device. The maintenance engineers, when they get into aircraft engine, need not carry anything. Just wear the smart glass. Look at, through the smart glass, that particular part or the component of the engine. Immediately it will be flashed. What are the standing instructions, do's and don'ts? What parts are weakened? And for those weakened points, what were the workarounds? They are all flashed through the smart glass. And based on that, the engineer will fix the issue and then walk away. So nothing to carry on hand. Easy way to connect with the repository, workarounds, and they were able to maintain the aircraft engine always up and running 100% of the time. Just a classic example. After this, what happened? The CEO said, they went back to all their customers. And on a lighter note, he said, we are going to stop selling aircraft engine anymore. Customers were shocked. Hey, you are telling me that you are going through a digital transformation, you are bringing up all technological intervention. Now, finally, what? To stop selling aircraft engine? Yes. He said that we are not going to sell my product, sell aircraft engine anymore. We would now rent it. So we will rent it to you, and you pay me not for the product, but for the flying hours. The whole purpose of my engine is to enable you increase your flying hours. When the flying hours will increase, if the aircraft engine is of superior quality, superior value, then he said, all that I'm going to do is I'm going to rent my engine. Don't worry about maintenance. Don't even think about aircraft engine. It is our responsibility. We will maintain it. We will ensure it is up and running. You only pay me by the flying hours. There is a beautiful article, friends, in the internet. You all go and see, which is called Power by the Hour. And this is published by Rolls-Royce when they successfully transformed their business into servitization. They actually said that now, dear customers, whether you are Boeing or whether you are EasyJet or any airlines, think about intensifying your sectors where you are not flying. Increase your sectors that you want to cover, but completely remove the headache of aircraft engine. That's going to be our headache. And you pay me only by the flying hour. This is an amazing model where you're not charging the customer anymore for the product or the services. You're charging for the outcome we are creating for the customers. Similar models are coming up, becoming extremely popular with other companies, whether it is Xerox or we say Alstom from the train perspective, who are maintaining the trains in the UK, they're also going on the similar line. Keeping my product up and running is our responsibility, and we want to empower our customers to do their business well. Last but not the least, with all of this comes what? The great power comes with great responsibility. So obviously we need to upskill our members as quickly as possible, because skills of the future is here to stay. So before I conclude and then invite the eminent panel members who are going to share their experiences, I want to remind at this point in time about Marshall Goldsmith quote in his book, "What got you here won't get you there." In a larger context, these are also called a swarm effect. Successful people become great leaders when they learn to shift the focus from themselves to others. And people who believe they can succeed would see opportunities and possibilities where others see threats. So I'm sure in the exciting times in this sector, we are only going to see more and more opportunities and possibilities, and see how we can leverage them in the context of all these technology. And keep in mind, 5G as a next generation communication is going to bring in see-through changes, and it's imperative that we all, the existing leaders, the earlier leaders also talked about how much they are also using the latest languages and terminology, ready to change, ready to transform. Becoming extremely agile is very important, both for present leaders as well as for the future leaders. So with that note, ladies and gentlemen, that's the context. And the panel members, eminent panel members, have got diverse group of panel members, one coming from oil expert, another from plantation, another from chemical industry. So let me take the privilege and honor of first starting with Mr. Ajit Kumar, Executive Director at Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited. He started his career in inspection department in refinery, moved to maintenance, and heading the department for 5 years. He has been involved in major project executions as a leader in integrated refinery expansion project, Euro implementation projects, now heading the project department involving execution of petrochemical projects. He also brings in diverse knowledge on the way his company and departments are going through digital transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a big round of applause. Big round, thank you. Let me now take the honors of introducing Shri K. Hari Kumar, the Managing Director of Travancore, Cochin Chemicals and Malabar Cements. And he's also a recipient of an award from the Honorable Prime Minister for excellence and outstanding contribution to public sector management in his individual capacity. Mr. Hari Kumar is a senior business leader with a successful track record, has more than 18 years experience only at the board level, of which a decade and more as the chairman and managing director of Hindustan Insecticides Limited. He was also being directed by the Government of India to take additional charge as chairman and managing director of Indian Drugs and Pharmaceuticals Limited to achieve the turnaround. He has also held additional charge of Kerala State Drugs and Pharmaceuticals during 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Hari Kumar. Thank you so much, sir. Now, Mr. Anand Venkatraman. I take the privilege in introducing him as Chief Executive and Whole-Time Director, Harrison's Malayalam Limited, an accomplished leader who has always provided impactful strategic direction for building and growing business across diverse categories. That includes focusing on execution by process simplification, superior people management skills, and an extensive understanding of the entire gamut of consumer behavior. He brings in about 37 plus years of hands-on experience in managing profit centers across various functional areas. He has also demonstrated expertise in overcoming existing deficiencies in various aspects. That includes employee, customer dissatisfaction, production, operations, and financial issues. And all these through effective turnaround management practices. Friends, he is a orator, he is a voracious speaker, life coach, trainer, and facilitator specializing in enabling startup companies and organizations to create enduring leadership by coaching, mentoring, and facilitating even the transition of technocrats to management or leadership roles. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Anand. So with that note, let me stop here with my opening remark, and I would request Mr. Ajit Kumar to share his thoughts and the kind of challenges and opportunities that he sees with next generation communication, especially coming from the petroleum industry. Mr. Ajit Kumar, over to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Venkatramani. Good morning, my business colleagues, students, and dear friends. Last 2 days, we are going to discuss about the communication and the new generation communications, which is very relevant in today's world. Last 2 years, we are telling the industries what we are living is called VUCA world, VUCA in, where the changes are happening so fast. VUCA in means volatile, very uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. In such an environment, if business wants to survive, there are only 3 principles where we have to follow. One is we have to adapt the changes very quickly. The second one is we have to innovate. We have to change our practices to the way we were living so far. Being in a process industry and in a refinery where we always say our tagline is energizing lives. And any problem in the industry, it will make the people to suffer. Where we are facing a problem where when I have taken charge, the crude prices was $70 per barrel. We say it in barrel terms. It has raised up to 140 just because of the Ukraine war. So the raw material costs are increasing. This time you might be aware the government is very particular that our prices were not increasing with the crude prices. So our raw material prices are increasing, our product prices are stagnant. And being in the refinery, when you have to be competitive, what is the choice available to us? We have only one choice, we have to optimize our cost. So the focus last 1 year, full 1 year was on cost optimization. What are the factors we have to do? We have to optimize our product quality. We have to optimize our product configuration in such a way we don't make any wastage in the system. We have to avoid you might be aware, refinery is a continuous process industry, 24/7 we have to run. We cannot have any reliability issues, and we have to reduce losses. So these are our 4 focal points where we can have control. The other outside world, we cannot have any control. So to make it the process to optimize, what we have to do, being a chemical industry, lot of process is happening and the process parameters are very important. Huge data, already a plant is almost automatized. But when we have to change any parameters, where I can tell you, since the war has happened, the crude availability was a big problem. We have to source crudes from Russian crudes and other crudes, where the composition, everything is different. We have to adjust our process parameters to make the available crudes. So the digital technology really helped us to make it to happen. We have earlier prototypes of units operating and we are checking the parameters. But now we have digital twins where we can completely automate the data. What is the pressure, what is the temperature, what is the process parameters. We have to control in different units in the system where the data is generated in such a way that we can really analyze where we can improve our quality of the products, where we can improve the optimize and reduce the wastage. That is one part. And this requires a lot of data to be analyzed, which is possible only with a high-speed network and communication availability. So even though we are doing it 4G, the volume what we are handling is less. When it comes 5G, this process automation and optimization is a big asset we are going to make. The second thing is As I specified, we have to run our units on a continuous basis, and even a one-day shutdown means the product will not be available in the market. And we are serving to the people where from LPG to ATF, any product shortage will completely affect the balance of the peoples outside. We are sure about it. So to make the reliable running of the units, it is all machines. We have a lot of monitoring mechanisms, but this data analytics really help us to predict whether these machines are going to be wrong or when it requires a maintenance. Whatever the parameters we have to monitor, we are regularly analyzing this data on a continuous basis, and we are in a position to predict when this machine is going to make a failure. So we can make an advance action to avoid such failures. That is another aspect. We are using this digital technology to improve our reliability, to ensure an uninterrupted operation. And the third thing I already specified, the loss part, where when we have to optimize the full crude it is coming, we say what percentage of loss, where it is going in flare or production loss or any other aspects. When it was earlier 9 to 10%, even a 0.1% loss means 50 crores for us. So we try to optimize the control system in a manner where when we can run with a 100% reliability, our production loss will be very less. Fourth aspect, even when we are doing, we have entered into petrochemicals and other things where the control systems are very important. And during the COVID time, it was tech. We have a lot of licensors from Japan, US and Germany, Europe, etc. They are not ready to travel to India. And we were in a manner, we have to commission our plant, we have to take turnaround of the plants. All this possible through the remotely operated system. The entire stream we connected to the foreign vendors from our operating plants. And we have shown digitally what is inside even a column, what is inside the equipment, so that they can control the parameters from the remote location. That is another advantage of the digital technology, where it brings all the operations can be controlled in a remote way and connectivity across the globe. Japanese time is different, Europe time is different. So we can come to a common platform and do the commissioning in a better way. That is another area where we can use. Then similarly, when it is going for a project aspects, nowadays we are concentrating when we are going to do a project or a big manufacturing facility. One of the main things we observed is the inventory, the material what we are purchasing. We usually purchase more materials and the wastage usually in the terms of 5 to 8% earlier. With a 3D modeling, interactive 3D modeling, where people across the globe can review the drawings across the globe, where the data transfer takes place, all of them together, where we can control the parameters and the drawings in such a way that we are now coming to the reduction in inventory almost less than 3%. All this type of activities, when we are saying, when the world is changing, the system what we can do in our organization is very important, where the digital technology and the speed, the connectivity, all the systems will improve. But this is all positive advantages. There are also some of the negatives we have to overcome. Yesterday also we discussed one is when you are going for such systems, when it is open to a lot of other people, cyber security is a problem. It is always susceptible to anybody can hack our operation, they can get our data, which will affect our system operation. That is one thing we have to be very careful also. Second thing is the gap required. We might have a legacy infrastructure. which is not suitable for a digital transformation. So we are also working on the human value change and changing the total structure which is suitable for the new generation informations. So the legacy structure has to be changed to adopt to the changes, and when this type of information, lot of information it may be generating, we have to very clearly analyze which data we want to use it. So that technical skill requires is a different field. So that is another change we have to make it in the human management system. When we can do all these things, these generation technologies and high communication and networking and the volume surely help, and it will really the future of the organization to say that we can go for a adaptive system. I want to highlight one more important aspect where we have really, you might be aware, when we have stuck with COVID, we require in India lot of oxygen problems. And we are one of the company in India, we converted our industrial oxygen to a medical oxygen within 3 days and made a facility and started a hospital at Kochi, Ambalamol within 1 week time to treat more than 10,000 people. So that is the advantage of technology, and we have to develop. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ajit Kumar. That's very, very useful. In fact, he talked about, started with adaptation, how the company adapted in his leadership. He talked about pricing model, geopolitical situations and challenges. I really like the way that you talked about data analytics multiple times, how you're using, and so enlightened to see the global reviews that you're able to get in terms of doing the overall governance so that you don't need to struggle with getting people on the board. Thank you so much for that. Now we will request Mr. Hari Kumar, who will come to cement the chemical angle to this. And I would request all the audience to take note of the question post, all the speakers making the first speech, then we'll open the floor for Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. See, the topic of the day is the next generation of communication and its impact on organization, basically the manufacturing sector we are looking at. I would like to put things in context before I start talking about the topic per se. See, let us look at where the world was 10 years ago. At least the people sitting in the front row would remember the old video cassettes. Then the video cassettes gave way to CDs. And we had a company in India called Moser Bayer, which was the largest producer of CDs in the world. But what happened? The company is deep in red with accumulated losses and a negative EPS. See, when I was doing my MBA, sales and marketing used to be a very hot topic. I'm not saying it's not any longer, but it used to be a very hot topic. But how many of you have seen salesmen of companies like Amazon or Flipkart? So basically, the job of salesman also has been taken over by technology to a large extent. The desktop has been replaced by mobile. A mobile has almost more than 5,000 times the computing capacity of a desktop we had. Movie theaters are getting replaced by Amazon Prime or video streaming Netflix. The world is changing. So what is happening because of this? See, since 1950s, 90% of the companies which were in Fortune 500 have basically given way, either closed down or merged or amalgamated with something else. So the average lifespan of a company is coming down basically because the companies are not able to adapt, or the changes happening in the market is much faster than the way the companies are envisioning. See, now there is a statement called Standard & Poor, which states that earlier the lifespan of a company used to be, say, 50, 60 years. Now means it was almost around 7, 8 years back, it had come down to almost 16 years. So probably today it can even be around 5 years. So that is the changing requirement. What I'm trying to tell you, change is happening fast. It's not only change which is happening, the velocity of change also is there. So change is happening very fast. So unless we adapt, it becomes very difficult even to remain where we are. See, earlier during the first industrial revolution which was talked about, fabric printer was there. It took almost 120 years for the fabric printer to get out of Europe. But today, when the internet started, in almost 10 years, internet could reach the rest of the world. So everything has changed. Everything is changing. The way humans travel, the way we eat, the way we communicate, the way we sleep, the way we socialize, everything is undergoing a transformation. That's why I said we have to continuously innovate to remain where we are. Now let's look at what exactly is happening in the manufacturing sector. Let us look at an industry which is known to virtually everybody. Let us look at the paint sector, because Kerala happens to be a large consumer of decorative paint. What happened? The public choices were changing. The public preferences were changing. Everybody was looking at the finer shades of paint which everybody wanted. So the companies were finding it difficult to make paint, and to each and every requirement, the specification, the amount of inventory people had to carry was huge. And the retailers also had to carry huge inventory. So what happened? Manufacturing sector underwent a transformation, and blending, color coding machines were placed at the retailer outlet. So at the retailer level, the base colors could be blended, matched, and transformed into colors of different choices, different shades, so people could have the shade of the paint they want. So this is what happened. So it was a win-win strategy, not only for the manufacturer because he could bring down inventory, it was also a win-win strategy for the retailer, and it was also a winning strategy for even the ultimate consumer, because he could get at the doorstep whatever he wanted, he could get the color of his choice. So even manufacturing sector is going to go this way everywhere. As we are going to see this, see even the fruit juice we drink, it has sodium, potassium and everything. Slowly that again is going to change, because the juice we make can be made as per the requirement of salt in that. Whether we want more of sodium, probably sodium will be able to be added, potassium will be able to add it. So basically more customization is going to happen. Even customization is going to happen even in the medicine sector, because probably everything will change. The way medicines are dispensed, even customized medicines are going to come, because ultimately the DNA profile of everybody is going to be there. The doctor will be able to see in the DNA, in a credit card sort of a card, what is the DNA system, what is the DNA profile, and probably medicine will get dispensed in that form. See, to keep changing with the changing market requirements, the manufacturing has to adapt. Manufacturing has to adopt. And that is why the manufacturing sector, in a response to the market requirements, has adopted Industry 4.0, which was being discussed. What exactly is Industry 4.0? Industry 4.0 is basically the adoption of high bandwidth digital communication at a high computational speed and information storage, which of course combines hardware, software, AI, 5G, decentralized consensus, 3D printing and fully autonomous vehicles and everything. So basically how the manufacturing is getting equipped to meet the changing customer needs is getting addressed in the Industry 4.0 with the digital transformation. Even the traditional manufacturing sector has also adopted machine-to-machine communication, IoT, Internet of Things, Industrial Internet of Things, and everything is getting adopted so that the manufacturing also becomes relevant, because the role of manufacturing is to remain cost efficient, cost effective, ensure timely production, optimize logistic cost and everything. A lot of activity manufacturing also has to ensure. And generally, when we talk about the public sector, we have people from the public sector and we have people from the private sector. There could be a general perception that public sector is slightly slow in adapting to the technology, which actually is not correct. I will take you through some practical examples so that you understand how my company has been able to adapt to the changing requirements and how we have been able to adopt this 4.0. See, we had a plant. Recently, we commissioned a plant. The technology was from China. And you know, last time during the COVID time and all that, we could not commission the plant, though the plant was mechanically complete, basically because the Chinese experts could not travel to India. So we had a challenge. All the investment was made. So how to keep the plant, how to start the plant and how to put it in operation. And there was only one option. What we did was, instead of giving an access, because Chinese said, okay, you give access to your DC, distributed control system, DCS, you give access. We said, no, we cannot give access to the DCS because a lot of plants are getting operated through that DCS. We gave a camera. We could, so that the Chinese sitting there could see the operational parameters which are getting displayed in the DCS system. Seeing that, our engineers could adjust whatever are the operating parameters, and bingo, we started the plant. And we never had to get delay because of the Chinese people could not come to India. That we did. And see, even for many other systems, many other web-enabled systems and all that, how do the people address, how do the service engineer come and address the issue? They come with the hardware, they make it web-enabled, and the service engineer sitting anywhere, maybe in Pune, maybe in Bombay, anywhere, they can address the issue and they can correct the controls and they can correct the machine while the machine is all along in Cochin. So this web-enabled system has enabled in two aspects. One is the downtime is less. Number two, we have more dependability on the machine and the service engineer doesn't have to come all the way. So the service engineer, the company is benefiting by the cost of travel and the companies have less downtime. Apart from this, we have RFID for all our chlorine tunnels because we basically manufacture caustic soda chlorine, and chlorine, as you all know, is a hazardous product. We have RFID trace. RFID is kept basically for two purposes. One is for traceability and another is to understand the history of the tunnel. The purpose is we know exactly where the tunnel is at a given time, and when the tunnel comes back, we are able to monitor and measure when exactly the service is due, whether the testing is due. Everything is getting addressed with the RFID traceability. I was MD of another company called Kerala State Drugs and Pharmaceuticals, wherein we were manufacturing medicines for the government during the COVID time. We had a machine, we had a tableting machine which conked off, which went kaput during the peak COVID time. And there was no way the engineer could come from Mumbai because traveling was not possible. What did we do? We had a commitment to the society because we had to make a product and give, but we had a mechanical problem because the machine could not be put in operation. We could get in touch with somebody, we gave the part, we got the part made in 3D and 3D printing, and with lot of trial and error, finally with the part we could put the plant back in operation, thereby meeting the immediate requirement. So these technologies have come in to help in basically helping in seamless manufacturing. And it has also helped in improving the operational efficiency through interconnection, information transparency, technical assistance, and everything. So this technology and communication can also help in data analytics, which can predict customer behavior, because manufacturing, as you said, is basically for the market. So these things can also help in predicting the customer behavior, in understanding what are the promotional tools which are required, which are to be engaged, and plethora of things. But let me caution you one state. Everything is good, but there is a flip side to the whole thing. There are challenges also. Flip side is, we had a product, and I was talking about my company, and wherein we had given access to the manufacturer, and when there was a commercial dispute, the manufacturer fiddled with the system and he made it non-operational. So that was a challenge because being a government company, we had our limitations, contractual limitations, which we couldn't violate. Finally, what we had to do, we had to disengage. We had to disengage, and then finally we had to we had to get done with the production. So this is the flip side to it. And there are a lot of challenges also. There are economic challenges. Number one is high economic costs are there, because everything will look good on paper. Finally, the affordability of the company is a factor. High economic costs. So the economic cost also to be seen when we decide to adopt this. There are social costs like job losses. There are privacy concerns, distrust, surveillance issues. All these things are there. There can be political issues like lack of regulation. There can be organizational issues like expensive technology, and there could be adequate skill among the employees. There could be reliability issues. All these things are there. So it offers a lot of opportunity. At the same time, it has a lot of challenges also. It all depends on how we mix and match, and finally we decide which is beneficial for us, whether the benefits outweigh the challenges, in which case we should go. It is not that we should adopt technology just because it is new. We have to adopt if it is convenient, and if it is affordable, and if it is of use to the organization. With these words, I thank you very much, and I thank KMA for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts and observations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hari. It was wonderful. In fact, it is important for all of us to be reminded of the traditional practices in the past. How did we do the transformation? I think the journey, the way you articulated, going back to desktop versus mobile, very, very true. And so nice to see the kind of key emphasis that you made on velocity of change, how quickly we can change. Interesting to also look at how we want to involve customer in the design. I was fondly remembering that Ford motor car company is now trying to look at color of the car, getting changed where it can be personalized by the customer. So nice to also hear you that predicting customer behavior, even before customer could come to know of their problems, we should know what their problems and start addressing those solutions. Very interesting application use case that you brought out, starting the plant, and also bringing in focus on reducing losses like downtime and dependability. What I really liked in the conversation is while you talked about all advantages, you also reminded that we all need to be prepared of the challenges, the cost-related challenges. So if you don't know where you want to achieve, where you want to go, then don't do it for the sake of doing it. Automation not necessarily for the sake of it, but where it has the maximum benefit, you do it. Thank you so much for that enlightenment, sir. Thank you. Please give a big round of applause to Mr. Hari once again. Thank you. Now, without much ado, let me invite Mr. Anand for sharing his thoughts from a very different perspective. And he being a accomplished leader and coach for all of us would be really helpful to hear his point of views on this topic.
Well, good afternoon, I would say, everybody. And, I am representing an industry which is not traditional or not a traditional manufacturing industry. So I will try to set the context first and try to explain to you that we've been, most of these industries which we are talking about is in a closed environment where you have a factory, you have a raw material which you procure, you process, and then you generate, output, which is very in a controlled atmosphere. The plantation is totally different from all this. In the plantation, you have the source material to be generated. You harvest the source material, in the sense you grow the source material, then you process, and then you complete the product. So it's totally different. So for us, it's managing huge hectarage of land. And this is one context which I would like to tell you. The second one, as Mr. Hari Kumar was saying, there are companies, now the life of a company is not more than 8 to 10 years or 12 years if they don't. This company which I'm representing or which I head today is a 150 years plus company. It's older than 150 years. So what I'm going to take you through in the next 10, 15 minutes, although it would not be possible to share more than that, is the journey that we have undertaken in upgradation or trying to survive, in this industry. Because it's very difficult. You need to survive in such an industry, so you have to understand what is happening here. So let me start off by saying, what is it Now, in this plantation, because I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen, what we did so far to survive in this industry. In the plantation, what happens is that you need to grow. Like in the case, I'm taking a case of tea. You have tea, rubber, you have, various other plantation crops, but I'll talk about tea, basically. The manufacturing process is quite simple here, so there's not much of technology. All you do is trying to remove the moisture from the leaf and present it to the market. So it's basically oxidization. We give oxygen to remove the moisture, and we take it out. So it's a very simple process, and there are a couple of processes which are there. So it's basically some are, like you get output of a CTC or orthodox or a green tea. So these are basically processed, but the raw material is the same. It's just like making a vegetable, whether you want to have a vegetable as a salad or you want to have it boiled or you want to have it cooked. The nutrient effect is the same, but it's the way you process. So you have green tea, you have white tea. All these are basically various simple processes which are involved in the manufacturing. So I won't be talking about manufacture per se, because for us, the basic problem that we face in this industry is the raw material. That is the leaf. In this case of tea, it's the tea leaf. Now what happens is we have hectareages of land. Harrison Malayalam, now we own close to about 5,000 hectares of land which is growing tea. Now, firstly, what is required in such a big operation? You need data, okay? The data is basically essential. What type of data do you need? I need to understand what is the clones I need to have put in, because these crops are going to last for 50 to 60 years. These bushes are going to last for 50, 60 years. But I need to know what was the clones, what is the capacity of the clone, is it drought resistant, it is capable of handling diseases. So you need to know a lot of data which is there, one on the clone, then the soil, There's so much of things happening with the climate being changed, the weather patterns being changed. I need to know what is happening to the soil per se for me to take a decision. The third thing that is happening is when, to predict my crop also, because what happens is that with the rain increasing or the rain decreasing, I don't know what my crop is going to be. So there is a lot of data that is involved in this entire process. And I also have to understand the maintenance now. Besides the data per se, I have to understand whether the processes, what are the processes here? One is harvesting. You go and actually pluck the leaf. Is it properly being done? When you're talking about 3,000, 5,000 hectares of land, how do you supervise that? Then there is a question of, there will be pests, there will be disease, there will be attacks of, insects and pests. How do you manage that? Is the spraying quality good? Is it not good? You need to understand that. Then on top of all this, you need the people, The people also is required, the supervision is required. So what have we done? We are still existing today. How have we gone? Today, to tell you in brief, I can sit here and I can exactly see what is happening in my estates. So what have we done? So just to explain to the entire thing, the first thing that we got done is, over the period of time, we realized that the supervision was less because we couldn't manage so many people. The cost was going up. The quality of supervision was going down. So we got a team which worked with us. The first thing we got done was a digital mapping of the entire estate, because firstly, using manuals, where we used to do manual surveys, now we have got a digital mapping which was done by using the satellite and also the drones for rectification of errors which is happening. So one is the entire satellite mapping was done. So I have a digital map. That's the first thing, because I need to know where exactly my location is, what is happening. Once we got that, we got all the data involved, because most of these data were actually, earlier it used to be written in the hand when, 30, 40 years back, those books would get spoiled. People will, with ink falling or, water falling over it, everything got destroyed. Then we went into the computers where we started feeding data, but these were on Excel sheets, which could not be shared very easily, Otherwise, the person had to transfer it to you either on a hard disk or something like that. Now it's all on the cloud. I sitting out here know what exactly I did 5 years back in the estate out there. What was the fertilizer program that we used, what was the spraying chemicals that we used. So we had, the second part was to pre-install all my existing data, so that we could take a decision based on the data that is available on what we need to do. After we got that, we now have got the question of the supervision, Now what happens is people in such a big estate, you will say, I went and plucked 250 hectares today. How do you know whether it's happened? How do you know whether the work has happened? So what we did is we got geofencing done here. The supervisor actually goes to the spot and he has to register there. He has to click the pointer there. So basically what happens at the end of the day, I get an entire tracking saying in this portion of the land, this activity took place. So when that happens, what happens is that we know exactly that this work has happened. Now you could say, okay, he could just go and click there. But then that is, again, the supervision that is required. But at least it minimizes, because when you're doing this manually in a hectare, say a 20-hectare area where you need to plant or need to spray, you don't know whether he's giving you the right figure, whether he's talking about 20 hectares which has been done or 15 hectares being done. So you accept the fact that he's giving you. Here, at least he has to go to that spot and he has to click, and then I get the maps. So what happens is all these controls were very important for us to survive, because supervision is becoming a problem. We don't get manpower today. The reason we don't get manpower, earlier people used to come to the plantations basically to work because it was adventurous. You had the luxury of huge bungalows and people enjoyed that, and you didn't have very good opportunities in the city those days. Now there is so much of opportunities, so people don't want to come. So with a shortage of manpower, we had to digitalize, we had to go digital, we had to do these conversions so that we have a total know-how of what is happening in the plantations. Similarly, it happens, there are now cameras which are available, which we have done now. Actually, we go and we have a surveillance team. The team actually visits the estate and they go and inspect the leaf and try to find out whether the leaf is infected or not. Now, we don't know the quality of the surveillance team, we don't know whether he's actually going and doing it. Based on the count is when I do the spraying. So if his count is wrong, the entire process goes wrong. Today, we have employed 300 or to 500 pixel cameras which have, which can be clicked, and all he has to do is when he clicks the photograph, it comes immediately onto the office and we know exactly what happens in the leaf. And it also not only gives the photograph, it also gives me the location of the tapping. So I know exactly in which part of the estate is he clicked and what is the disease that was there. Besides this, what happens when we work actually, since the industry is changing, there's a lot of molecules changing, the way we, arrest pest and disease is changing, so we need help also. Earlier, what would happen, we would have to invite professors or scientists, from reputed industries to come and meet us, or reputed colleges to come and, explain to us if there's a problem, I don't understand the problem, there's a new disease that has come, this is spoiling my plants out here. So he had to travel, we had to wait for him to be free and then come over and then do the job. Now what we do is, all we do is click this and send it across to him, and he has a look at exactly what is exactly happening out there. And he can get back to you saying, these could be the possibilities. So communication has helped us to stay so far. And like what Mr. Hari Kumar was telling before I came in, saying that we need to survive, and we have been using this to survive. This is a very, very old industry. Unlike many of the modern industries, this industry is very primitive, and it gives a huge amount of labor. We require a huge amount of labor. So what happens is, it gives a lot of employment. So we have to survive. For the social benefit, we have to survive for the economic benefit. So for survival, we need to get digitization happening. And that is what we've been using. We've been using various forms of, we have actually employed a full-fledged team basically from BITS Pilani who have been helping us in this entire journey of what to do, how to do, and how do we control this entire thing. So I just ran you through this and, our experience with actual digitization to understand, or to help you understand what it requires for people like us to survive, especially when you have such large blocks of land, which is very difficult to supervise these days. So this is an exact journey which we have undertaken to come here. We still have a long way to go, and I'm sure that with so much of advancement in technology, we will be able to make life easier for the people who's working in the industry, and maybe, things would become much easier in the future. So with this, I would conclude and leave it for any questions that is to be asked, because there's so many other areas in the plantation that we've been doing, but in 20 minutes or 15 minutes, it's not possible for me to talk through the entire process. So I just leave you with these thoughts that what exactly we've done to survive. And if at all anybody wants to know anything more, you're welcome to get in touch with me at a later stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anand. That was very interesting. Diverse group that we all would have heard, from petroleum to chemical to plantation. And again, the common languages. There also he talked about prediction, predicting the behavior not of the people or the tools, but for the crop, right? And harvestation processing. How did we do and how do you monitor? You use the term cloud. How do you look at the data from cloud? And I don't know whether you use drone technologies to actually do the survey. Geofencing supervision was another fantastic one. I think it's a very, very different one. And I'm reminded of Dr. Deming's saying here, in God we trust. All others, please bring data. Right? I think common point that keeps coming up is data analytics. Now, to the ladies and gentlemen, to the audience, we will open the floor for questions. I know Mr. ABK is already staring at me. He's not even smiling at me because of the time. But can we take a couple of questions from the audience? Is that okay? Sure. Okay, great. I think what they are trying to tell me is not take the questions here, but probably take the questions over the lunch. So we will have all the panel members available throughout the day. Maybe anybody wants to reach out to them and you can take the note of the questions. Once again, to all the panel members, distinguished panelists, thank you so much for sparing a very valuable time and sharing your deep insights in this area. Thanks to all the audience for the patience.
Thank you so much. A truly inspiring session on the role of next generation communication in manufacturing. I request the panelists and the moderator to kindly stay back on stage, as our moderator, Dr. Shankaran Venkatramani, would be recognizing the panelists. May I request one of our past president of KMA, Mr. Jibu Paul, accompanied with the convention chair, A. Balakrishnan, and the president of KMA, Ms. Nirmala Lilly, to join them on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the panelists. For the great session that we've had, we had Mr. K. Harikumar, Mr. Ajit Kumar, and Mr. Venkatraman Anand. And for the moderator, the excellent session that we had, Dr. Shankaran Venkatramani. The combination of machine and humans working together is the new normal. Thank you. We move on to the next session. Next in line, we have a keynote on the topic leading in a digital world. To introduce the speaker, we have one of our managing committee member of the Kerala Management Association, inviting on stage Mr. Sunil Balakrishnan.
President of KMA, Ms. Nirmala, the convention chair, Mr. Balakrishnan, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all of you. I know this is the session that is standing between all of us and the lunch, but let me also assure you that it is going to be worth every minute of your wait. I'm saying this because of two reasons. The first one, the relevancy of the topic. The topic is leading in a digital world. Now, all of us are living in a time when digitalization is happening at the speed of light. I know it is a cliched usage, but that is what I can think of now. Now, we have a lot of examples in front of us, and as all of us know, last 3 years, the pandemic has forced us to live in a virtual world, and that has really accelerated the speed of digitalization too. We always talk about how UPI has transformed India's financial industry, the financial transactions. We talk about ONDC, how it is going to make a huge change in the digital commerce and making sure that from the conglomerates of billion-dollar conglomerates like Flipkart and Amazon, how it is going to change the way our Kirana stores are going to do business. There are a lot of examples. And even in the last session, one of the panel members were talking about digitalization is not even a choice, it is a matter of survival. So the relevancy of the topic is already made in the sessions. We talked about healthcare, we talked about manufacturing, so that is already said. And the second reason why I said it is going to be an interesting time is because of the speaker. And I really don't think the speaker or the organization that he founded needs an introduction in this part of the world. But at the same time, that is a responsibility bestowed upon me, so let me get straight into that. IBS Software is one of the most inspirational business stories to come out of Kerala and arguably the most enduring corporate enterprises in the IT product landscape of India. Founded by Mr. V.K. Matthews in 1997 with 55 inexperienced professionals, IBS Software is today one of the leading enterprise software companies for the global travel, transportation, and logistics industry. In a country renowned for IT service companies, IBS Software is an IT product company providing specialized and proprietary mission-critical technology solutions to some of the world's largest airlines, busiest airports, leading cruise lines, top oil and gas companies, and renowned travel distribution hotel groups. Today, IBS Software is in 25th year of operation, and it has evolved into a multinational corporation competing against renowned global IT companies, serving over 200 customers worldwide, employing 3,500 professionals from 20 nationalities, and poised to be the #1 IT solution provider to the global air transportation industry. Mr. Matthews, the founder and executive chairman of IBS Software, is a thought leader in the aviation travel business. He holds several important positions in government agencies, academic institutions, and trade bodies. Mr. Matthews has a master's degree in aeronautical engineering from IIT Kanpur and has executive management education from Harvard Business School, Boston, USA. And I congratulate IBS Software and Mr. Matthews on its Silver Jubilee year. And over to Mr. Matthews for sharing his views on leading in a digital world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sunil Balakrishnan, who is also the Chief Values Officer of UST. Welcoming on stage, Mr. V.K. Matthews, who is the founder and executive chairman of IBS Software.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, thank you for the generous introduction. I am very well aware of the fact that I'm standing between you and the sumptuous lunch I'm sure KMA is promising to you. I was also looking at the agenda and I was wondering, there were 3 keynotes today and a fantastic, a great panel discussion, which I had the privilege to listen to. But nevertheless, so the topic for today is leading in a digital world. It's as Sunil was mentioning, it's quite an important topic. A lot of us don't quite realize that we are deeply inside that. So I will segregate my talk into the flow of my speech, talk a little bit about the digital world that we live in today, because if we don't know where we are, no map will help us. Then we'll talk a little bit about what does it mean to provide leadership, lead in this new world for us to succeed. We'll talk, if time permits, we'll talk a little bit about our country, the opportunity, and a little bit about our state. and then I'll conclude. So the number one, of course, two parts to it, where we are. We live, as we all know, in a digital economy. Those who have heard me in the past you would see that I'm repeating. The digital economy, I'll give you some sort of an overview. The size of the digital economy is about $20 trillion, about 20% of our global GDP. The sector that I represent or support, which is travel, which dates back to the beginning of humanity, and it's only 10% or 10 trillion. So you can imagine, and digital economy did not exist until 2007. That's when iPhone first came out. When I started IBS, we are 25 years now. Can you imagine? We didn't even have Google, and the mobile phones will not work, the GSM phones will not work in the United States. From there today, from 2007 till today, it's about $20 trillion. That's very, very big. If I really look at how does it work, it is driven by our ability to collect, process, and analyze and monetize massive amount of digital data. It still evolves at breakneck speed. The internet traffic, we are talking about next generation communication technologies, the traffic used to be 1 megabits per second about 28 years ago, which is probably now 200, 300 terabytes. And when you talk about the next generation communication technologies, particularly 5G, which is being rolled out now, and 6G, we will have peak speeds of 100 gigabytes per second. So that's the change. It's evolving at breakneck speed, and it also creates massive, huge amount of wealth in rapid time. But unfortunately, concentrated in the hands of few countries, companies, and more problematically, few individuals. And we have created a very, very powerful data value chain supported by firms who process, collect, process, analyze data to produce digital intelligence, which we can monetize through commercial use. And this is the world that we are actually talking about. And one of the key drivers of this economy, and which I will again refer as how the world is transforming, is that platformization is the biggest driver of digital economy or the digital world. We have got different types of platforms, transaction platforms, which facilitates or which connects thousands or millions of producers with billions of consumers and facilitates bilateral and multilateral exchanges. And you also have innovation platforms where we bring the whole world to come together to collaborate and promote innovation, such as iOS, such as Android, such as Linux. And the data which is actually produced through the actions and the interactions through these platforms is a very, very big advantage of the digital economy. And the digital economy, when we talk about it, it's very important for us to realize that unlike the traditional economy where we always talk about the big divide between the northern hemisphere, that means the developed world, and the developing or underdeveloped or undeveloped world in the southern hemisphere. But that is not the case in the case of the world that we live today. 90% of the digital economy is between two countries, China and the US. If you really look at 75% of all of the blockchain patents, 50% of the IoT spendings, and again 75% of the cloud, public cloud market, and 90% of the market capitalization of all of those platform-based companies are in these two countries. So, ladies and gentlemen, when you see the trade as well as geopolitical frictions between some of these countries, it demonstrates their quest for supremacy and dominance in these frontier technologies. That's what we see today. And that's what the digital world that we are actually talking about. And let's now look at last 3 years. we were impacted by COVID. And it came as a black swan event. And what did we learn from COVID? We did a lot of analysis on this. I can share you what we have actually learned and what happened to the world during this period and what will be the residual impact of that going forward, which will be very interesting for us to look at. One, if you look at the companies which were doing well, if you take the top quintile of the performing companies in the world and the bottom quintile, that means bottom 20%, and then see how they performed before COVID, that means say 2019, latter part, and through the COVID times, you will find that the companies who were doing well did continue to do very well. The strong became stronger. Their market capitalization has grown, market traction has increased, and the weak has become weaker. In other words, companies which had future-ready business models survived better. I'll tell you, I'll explain that in more understandable tone. For example, companies which are agile, they did much better. Companies which are asset-light, they did much better than companies who are very asset-heavy and who had debt in the balance sheet. Very, very important for us to actually realize. And again, try to explain what does it mean. And this is important for us to actually think about going forward. For example, 4 questions became so important for all of us, people who lead businesses. One, how do you respond to market conditions on which you have no control? For example, travel, the sector that I represent. The travel has almost come to a grinding halt. And how do you respond to it? Second, how do you respond to changing consumer behavior or customer requirements or expectations? Today, we know, but we don't realize, internalize. The consumer behavior or customer expectations have dramatically changed, including all of us, because our next read can be next second. My next movie can be in less than 10 seconds. My ride can be in less than 5 minutes, thanks to Uber and Lyft and Ola and whatever. And my next meal is less than an hour on my mobile. And next vegetables probably less than 3 hours. Amazon Fresh. And anything from the world, anywhere in the world. And I remember during COVID times, I had to get a treadmill in my apartment in Dubai because the gym was closed. Not that I'm a very regular in my exercises, but all of that is now possible. So consumer expectations. So how do you respond to changing consumer expectations, customer expectations? The third and the most important one, perhaps the most important one, how do you actually variabilize your costs? That means when my revenues are drying up, how do I throttle down my costs? And there was also something else that has happened which you guys may not realize. Companies which had global revenues, and they had costs also in areas which were very expensive, not competitive. So how do you internationalize your cost when your revenues are international was another important question. So these are extremely, so companies which are agile, who had business models which would respond to these kind of situations, did so much better. And if you do the study and you look at all the companies which did, you will see this. The second piece, so one, agility. We have to be agile. We don't know when is the next Black Swan event, or like Ruchir said, the Bluebirds event, it could be, hopefully, let it be the Bluebird event. But the second most important one, this is also all of us can realize. If you look at companies which are empowering, engaging, fulfilling the end consumer, capture 90% of the value in the value chain. As an example, Swiggy, Zomato, Uber Eats, all of them, look at their value compared to the farmer who is actually producing, and the food processing companies who are producing the remainder of it, the warehousing companies, the logistics companies, the wholesaler, the retailer, the restaurant owner, and the chef, all of them are cost plus. And the company which is managing the customer for amplifying the consumption behavior is capturing 90% of the value. And on that count, I will also tell you what's really happening to the universe of commercial business. Ladies and gentlemen, one thing that's really happening without us probably realizing is that digitization or digital transformation, or more so platformization, is dividing the commercial business universe into two segments. One, the producers, the other one, the consumers. And you, me, sit in the middle as the service owner or the brand. And the imperatives are very different for the two. On the producing side, you really have to be, you will be looking at operations excellence. You will be looking at economies of scale, internationalizing the cost, all of what we should make. But it's almost all the time a cost plus business. Whereas on the other side, when I am engaging with the consumer, and I have to, it's always a customer experience, the loyalty, and everything that I'm actually trying to do is to amplify his consumption behavior. Ladies and gentlemen, we must realize that every day we are expected to consume more than what we consumed yesterday. And why? Because only then the economy is growing. And if you are associated with a company or a country which is growing, you have to consume more. Fortunately, less physically these days and more mentally. So how do you increase the consumption behavior? The responsibility of the brand to connect the consumer, to amplify his consumption, is considered to be 90% more valuable than the rest. Is a change that's actually taking place in the world. That means digital transformation is really dividing the whole world. It is not important for you to produce everything that you give. And this brings in another very important concept, or three different techno-domain trends, the mega trends, which is engulfing the world. The number one is personalization. Number two is disintermediation. And number three is aggregation or virtualization. What it means is this. I told about how digital transformation is really reshaping the future of our world, commercial business. And that's where all the management experts would be working. So today, for me, what is important for me if I am managing the customer or the consumer is to give him what he wants than what you just have. If I am an airline, I provide a seat, an airline seat, which is my inventory. But that's not what the customer is asking. I'm telling him, whatever that you think of travel, you come to me, I'll give you whatever you want. The hotel rooms, the short ticket, the car, you name it, the cruise, whatever. But I don't operate all of them. I may be operating an airline because I have a reason to operate, because I have certain advantages of operating. But if I so decide I can afford not to operate today, if you have a digital pipe that's connecting the suppliers, I will be able to pick up the travel supplies. If I'm talking about travel again, my sector, I'll be able to pick up all the travel components from the people who are focusing on production of the travel supplies, aggregate it, package it, personalize it, price it, and deliver to the consumer in a medium that he is ready to consume. That is how that world happens. That's why personalization is not only relevant in travel sector, it is relevant everywhere. For example, take the case of education. Ladies and gentlemen, when you think about education, we think of the brick and mortar university. No. All of those lectures, classroom lectures, can give way to virtual deliveries. I'm not talking about small classes. You can also think about the degrees and the diplomas. That means from the supply side, It can be micro-credentials. I just want to have a 3-month course on journalism because that's what I'm interested, and that's all what I need to do, and I can get that now, and I should be able to get that now. And if you're rating universities, the ones which are able to give that are rated better and should be rated better than others. In other words, what's really happening in this new universe, the focus is shifting to the demand side than the supply side. I'm not going to have 120 of those courses or 120 credits for whatever that I'm actually doing. I'm going to do what I really want to do, and I do have that choice and the flexibility, which is good. So that's another change that's actually taken. So what I was talking, one was the agility, how to respond to changing situations. The second one, the customer empowerment, engaging. That's the most important. And this, most of it has come to the fore thanks to COVID. The third piece, all of us should remember that ESG, environment, sustainability, and governance is gaining so much more importance, and rightly so, which is something we never even thought before. But even for companies, your suppliers who may not be directly in that business, the key question, for example, when I meet the CEOs of travel companies, which I do quite often these days after COVID when we resumed the travel, one of the key questions that they ask is, all right, if we take your platform for operations management, disruption management, how will you help me in achieving my ESG goals? By and large, compliance is not so much of an issue. The governance part, most of the publicly listed companies or companies where you have professional investors, you would have achieved governance. But when it comes to environment and sustainability, it's very important. That question is very important. And the ones who have better score on ESG will do better because the world is looking at companies who are more compliant on that terms. So this is what really, when I talk about the digital world that we are living in, and if that is the world that we are living, what does it mean to lead and be successful in that world? I can give you some hints. So I can see here people who are influencers, who are probably at the September side of their life, and I can also see people who are leading and leaders and contributors who are running the companies and organizations and perhaps countries. And I can also see behind the boys and girls who will be the leaders of tomorrow. So what is it that we should be doing? What is it that we should be doing to be successful in this world is what I will talk about in the latter part of my conversation with you guys. The number one, there are three things again happening. There's an accelerated technology adoption everywhere. Accelerated technology adoption. Yeah, every company is now attempting to become kind of a technology company. I'm not saying that they are becoming IT companies. They would like to say that they are a technology company because they would like to take full advantage of the capabilities of technology for them to succeed. This is quite an important part. Now, how does it play out in your organization, the organizations that you're leading or you are advising the organizations? What it means, 2, 3 things. Again, linking to the world that I have described. Number one, I call it as brilliant basics. You look at, if you are a company with 50 people, 100 people, you have to really assess what's the technology intensity in your business. Are you really being helped by technology? Are you able to improve your productivity? Are you able to improve your innovation? We all have a customer. And we are trying to meet the requirements of the customer and how you are able to. So brilliant basics means, for instance, if I take my line of business, airline aviation business, aviation operation, you would have heard about FAA's no-time failure yesterday, and 10,000 flights were delayed and so many were canceled. And before that, you heard about a disruption in the United States because caused by storm, but Southwest had to cancel so many flights, also American. And how do you come out of the disruption? You know, American Airlines has 6,500 flights per day. So also Southwest has 5,000 flights a day. And if you have 3 hours of disruption, how do you recover from that disruption? And all of that is about the brilliant basics. How do we make sure that an airline is operating with the right number of aircrafts and not more than that? And it's operating with the right number of crew, you know, cockpit as well as cabin crew, and it is operating optimally. And that means I have a network and I do have flights and I make sure that I don't have to be adding more assets than what is necessary. And how do you handle this, what is called brilliant basics? In other words, in your operation where you are normally cost plus, operations excellence is your motto, how do you make sure that you utilize and work side by side with machines going forward? That's one important aspect. And in this, what you talk about, next generation communication technologies will be of enormous benefit. Think about a hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, if I have the 5G, 6G communication technologies, what does it do, a 5G technology? In very simplistic terms, you can transfer more data faster. Your latency will be less. You will be more reliable. I can connect more IoT devices from a standpoint. From the same cell, from the same tower, I can connect 1,000 more consumers, 1,000 times more consumers. I will be able to do mission-critical operations. So now let's take about one of our premier, healthcare centers here. What it means is this: when I have got, say, 20 gigabits per second, gigabits per second transmissibility, I will be able to see things clearer than my absolute magnified eyes. What it means is that an operation that is taking place here in Amrita or Astor or any of the hospitals here can be performed by a surgeon from Harvard Medical School with as much precision as possible. So we will be able to do mission-critical operations so much more precisely. This is empowering. And this is what is called brilliant basics. And that's what I mean by brilliant basics. The second one, ladies and gentlemen, what you should be looking at is what I call as digital dexterity. You should make sure that every person in your company is very, very comfortable digitally. Very comfortable, digital dexterity. We talk about, say, chopstick dexterity. Similarly, we should have digital dexterity. It's important, and it's a cultural change even now. I can see managers getting their emails printed and put in their in trays. That is not the future going to be. We have to do that change. So I'm talking about leading in a digital world. And the third piece, customer loyalty. In this hugely, hugely digital world, your success is your brand name. We will become far more personal and social at scale. That's what is really happening. That's why personalization is. So there will be hundreds of people, then thousands of startups and millions of startups. But finally, your brand is so important. It's going to be so your customer loyalty, your closeness, knowing your customer. And you can have only one strategy, ladies and gentlemen. That strategy is to help your customer win, your customer succeed. How can you help your customer achieve the goals? That is all about. So that's the reason why you don't have to be doing everything. You will be able to get others to do that, and you will, as long as you have the customer and the consumer in your hand, you're okay. And the fourth piece for those who are running businesses, empowering your employees. How do you empower? One of the major changes that's taking place, which we talked about it for 5-6 years now. The future of jobs are changing. In 2015, MGI, McKinsey Global Institute, has come out with a study first time in 2015. I spoke in 2016 in our customer conference is about the fact that 30% of all the jobs existing in the world across 800 occupations and 2,000 work activities can be automated with the technologies that existed in 2015-16. You can imagine what would be the stage today. And if that is happening, you cannot make your entire company redundant, isn't it? Because there's a talent mismatch. So it's so important for you to make sure that you empower your employees by upskilling them to lead and live in a digital world. That's very, very important, yeah? What else should you do to succeed in the digital world? Let me just look at what did I write. Yeah. I think the next one more point and then I'll close. Yes, I should. That one more point is this. That is, the operating models of companies are changing. All of you must have realized the operating models of companies are changing. What it means is that the study, and it's a survey that was conducted among the CEOs of the Fortune 500, and they came back with this view that 20 to 25% of all the jobs in future are going to be from remote. All the jobs. And it might vary from occupation to occupation, but worldwide, if you really look at 20 to 25, and of course, we will do far more commerce through digital technologies. And how is this going to play out? Are you willing to operate an organization with majority of your people working from remote? And it's going to be a reality, and we can resist initially, but it's going to be a reality. But if you really look at it from a community, society's point of view, if you put flexibility at the core of future of work, is it going to be better for the society or not? Certainly yes. Now, work from home or work from office. Work from office, there must be a very valid purpose for it, and which you should be able to explain. Why should I work from office? You should be able to explain very clearly, and there are valid reasons for it. To build the culture, relationships, and feeling of community, collaboration, innovation, co-creation. All of this would require, for example, introducing freshmen into your company. All of that would require. Having said that, that flexibility will only help you. So what the operating models are changing, and we should be adapting. And again, keep in mind, we are used to, in many of the companies, we are used to managing by activities. We have to have processes and methods and managers trained to manage by outcomes, not activities. That's important. And work from home, what are the advantages from an organization's point of view? I can quote 4 or 5 very clear advantages from an organization's point of view. But we can, Number one, now you can hire from wherever the talent is. Previously, for us, we work in 40 countries, and we will always hire from an office which is associated with that, so that they will be part of an office. You have a primary workplace which is so-and-so office in Frankfurt or Atlanta or whatever. So that's one advantage. Second, we can make our workplace more inclusive. I'll tell you what it means. For example, if you look at India, if you look at the senior leadership roles in India in companies, it's very disproportionate. So, and the reason why that happens is not because the genders are not equal in competence, but because certain stages in life, we assume certain roles to be performed by certain gender. So the women tend to, when the children are in class 12, class 10, or when the parents are not well, they tend to actually go a bit slow or take leave, sabbatical, or resign, whatever. Whereas work from home provides that opportunity for them to continue, even when they have such needs. And of course, the need is the one to be addressed. However, having said that, since it is existing, the next one, we will be able to actually accommodate or participate in the running of the world and the companies, people with different capabilities or differently abled people. They don't have to necessarily come to the office all the time. So, and similarly, the headcount, you don't have to be spending so much on your infrastructure, particularly the office infrastructure, because it doesn't have to necessarily grow linearly with the headcount growth for most of the companies. So these are some of the advantages for sure. Yeah. So I talked about the digital world, the learning from COVID. I talked about what does it mean and what does it take to be a leader in the digital world. And I would have, I will take 1 more minute to actually give a little bit of an inspiring kind of a feeling about where we are. Ladies and gentlemen, you would have heard about where is India heading in the thick of all of this? What is India's future? Because most of us are operating in India. You would have heard all the big leaders, economists, scenario planners, business leaders talking about, and I'll quote what I have been quoting in several areas when I'm speaking there. McKinsey CEO, Bob Sternfeld, in September, he gave an interview and he said, I'm sure some of you would have definitely read this, it is not India's decade, it's India's century. Why did he say that? Obviously, he is head of McKinsey, so he must have valid reasons to say that. He is not a politician, otherwise he's... So he said that because of 3 reasons, and I'll add 1 more reason to it from my own. The first one, he said, India will be the talent hub for the world, talent factory for the world. By 2047, in 25 years, 20% of the entire world's talent will be in this country. And it's going to make a huge difference to the world in an aging and graying world. Second, a number of geopolitical issues, tensions that we see today is remapping the supply chain predominantly from China, and India can be a benefactor. Third, for the size, complexity, and relatively low per capita income of our country, India is highly digitized, and we will be able to leapfrog in our developmental pursuits. And the fourth, that I would say, these are the only 3 he said. He doesn't know the country of India and Indians as much as we do. So I would put it this way. The enterprising mindset, the thriving mindset, the ever-hopeful mindset of the Indians is another reason why the century has to be ours, which is should be quite promising. And we also should think, in this context, this is Kerala Management Association. Where will Kerala be, or what should be the vision for Kerala? And I would say, I will not talk about the predicaments of our state, but I'll talk about what should be the future. I think our vision should be, again, to be the finest place to live. If it's a fine place to live, I'm sure it'll be a great place to work too. And for that, we should have only 3 things. We should, 3 mantras: clean Kerala. We should make sure that we live in a clean environment, swimmable backwaters, clean water. Safe Kerala, waste managed Kerala, yeah. The next one, safe Kerala. So clean Kerala, safe Kerala, meaning safe to drink water, safe to eat food, safe to travel roads, safety from disasters. And that should be the focus of the government. And the third piece is economically enabled Kerala. Government should only do things that only government can do, and not run, manufacture soaps and do things which government should not be doing, in my view. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's where I will stop. So I talked about, I will not leave without talking about India and Kerala. That's my problem, but now that I said it. So, considering the audience belonging to 3 classes, those who are influencers on the September side of their life, those who are leaders and contributors, and those who are creators of future, I have 3 quotes for you before I conclude. Number 1, for the influencers, the front benchers, not all of them. Vivek is also sitting there. We all have 2 lives, ladies and gentlemen. And the second life begins when we realize that there's only 1 life. That's important for us. And that second life is the brightest part of our life. The number 2, for the contributors, the leaders who lead today. The world that we have created, the city that we have created, the community that we have created is a product of our thinking, and if you want to change it, we have to change our thinking. Very important for us. And the third one is for the creators of future, the youngsters, the boys and girls who will be the leaders of the world tomorrow. If you love what you do, you will never work in your life. And I also want to add this, very important for all the mothers and fathers who always talk about their children. What do we say? We always say, oh, he's very good, he's very bright, but he doesn't work, he doesn't study, he doesn't apply. So the youngsters, please remember this quote. There is a person who doesn't read, doesn't have any advantage over a person who cannot read in this world. I think it's important. So I'm going to stop there. Thank you very much, Balakrishnan, for inviting me and insisting. I wish KMA all the very best for supporting, promoting professional management and leadership in the state of Kerala. I wish all of you enjoyable, rewarding, greater sessions for the rest of the day. And I wish each one of you and your loved ones a great year ahead, healthy and happy year ahead. Happy New Year. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring and motivational session and sharing your thoughts on leading in a digital world. On behalf of the Kerala Management Association, we would like to present you with a memento. And to do the honors, may I request Mr. Matthew Urumbat, one of our past presidents, to be on stage, along with Madam President Nirmala Lilly and the Convention Chair, A. Balakrishnan. Truly, with the accelerated tech adoption, digital dexterity, branding and empowerment, the digital transformation is here to stay and the way we live. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together once again for Mr. V.K. Matthews. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. May I request a convention chair, A. Balakrishnan, to make an announcement.
So, good afternoon, everyone. This is a special announcement from one of our sponsors, basically Software One, supported by Amazon Web Services. We heard about the digitization, manufacturing, and the leadership just now. Now, and fundamental point is we have to make a digital roadmap in every industry, every business. So the company Software One is ready to help us. And if you can drop your visiting card over there, their counter, or the first 10 visiting card, proper manufacturer or financial services or healthcare industry, they will do a workshop and they will come out with your digital journey, a full blueprint, which is valued at $5,000, which is free for 10. I request you to take their service. Second is actually for students and those who are doing research and faculty members or any institutions who want certificate of attendance. Again, it is completely digitized. We have displayed the QR code over here. There is already QR code. There is a digital certificate is available. I request you to avail that. And we are now breaking for lunch.